The house at the end of Millstone Road had always been silent, as if it held its breath while the world outside kept moving. Ivy clung to its bricks like forgotten memories, and the old oak tree in the yard leaned toward the second-floor window as though it wanted to whisper secrets. When Anna moved in, she didn't believe in hauntings, curses, or restless souls. She only believed in rent she could afford, and the old house offered exactly that, a price too good to question. She arrived one autumn evening, the kind of evening where the sky bled orange into blue. The landlord, a thin man with trembling hands, gave her the keys without stepping inside. "Just don't touch the door in the basement," he muttered. She laughed, thinking it was a strange old man's superstition. A door that must not be opened. How quaint. The first week passed quietly. Anna worked from home as a freelance illustrator, spending hours sketching near the wide kitchen window, where light fell in golden stripes. The house creaked at night, but all old houses did. Sometimes she heard a faint knocking from below the floor, but she told herself it was the pipes. Always the pipes. Until the seventh night. That night, she couldn't sleep. The air felt thicker somehow, as though the house itself was awake. Around midnight, she heard it again, knocking. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. She sat up in bed and listened. The sound came from the basement. When she turned on the lamp, the bulb flickered. "Just the wind," she whispered. But the knocking came again. 3 times. The next morning, she decided to check. Sunlight made her braver. She found the basement door tucked behind the kitchen pantry, its handle cold as ice. When she turned it, the hinges moaned. Dust spiraled in the narrow staircase that led down into darkness. She found the light switch, but it didn't work. So she used her phone's flashlight and descended. The air smelled of damp earth and something older, something metallic, like rust and rot. At the far end of the basement stood another door. Unlike the others, this one was new. Too new. Its wood was smooth, its color richer, its surface clean of dust. It had no knob, just a keyhole that seemed almost alive. She leaned closer. From behind the door came a faint whisper. Her breath caught. She stepped back fast enough to bump into a shelf, knocking over an old jar that shattered. When she looked again, the door was still. Silent. Harmless. She left quickly, locking the basement door behind her. That night she dreamed of a man standing behind that door, his face pale, his eyes hollow. He was whispering her name. When she woke, her phone showed 3:03 a.m., the same time she'd heard the knocking. The days grew colder. The dreams came more often. She began to draw strange figures without realizing it. Faces she didn't recognize, hands reaching for something unseen. When she'd blink, she'd find words scrawled at the edge of her sketchbook. "Let me out." One evening, her friend Mark stopped by. He was practical, the kind of man who didn't scare easily. When she told him about the door, he laughed. "Probably some prank the landlord set up," he said. "Let's take a look." Despite her protests, he went downstairs. She followed reluctantly, holding her phone flashlight again. When the beam hit the far wall, the door was there, only now it was open. Cold air poured out, smelling of rain and graves. Mark frowned. "What the hell?" He stepped closer. "Don't," Anna whispered. It was closed this morning. Inside was darkness that seemed too deep for the small basement. He reached his hand through, and the moment he did, the door slammed shut. The lights went out. Anna screamed. She tried to open it, but the door wouldn't move. She pounded on it, shouting his name. The only sound that came back was his voice, muffled, distant. "Anna, it doesn't close." Then silence. When the lights flickered back on, the door stood open again, empty. No Mark. She called the police, but they found nothing, no trace of him, no fingerprints. Just an empty basement and a door that, according to their report, did not exist. When the officers returned with her to the basement, the wall was bare. No door. No sign there had ever been one. But Anna knew better. Days blurred into nights. She barely slept. The house seemed to breathe around her, its floor sighing, its windows rattling in the still air. She started hearing footsteps upstairs, even when she was alone. Sometimes she'd find the front door ajar. Once she found muddy footprints leading from the basement door that no longer existed. Then came the letter. It appeared on her kitchen table one morning, sealed with black wax. No name, no stamp. Just one line on the paper inside. The door never closes. That night, she heard the knocking again. Louder this time. 3 times. Then silence. Then 3 more. She ran downstairs. The door was back. It looked different, older, worn, as though it had been waiting. She could feel something breathing behind it. Whispering. "Mark," she said, voice trembling. A pause. Then a voice answered. Hoarse, broken, familiar. "Anna, help me." Her heart hammered. She reached for the frame. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'll open it." But another voice came then, deeper, colder. "If you open it, it will never close again." She froze. The air turned icy. The bulb overhead flickered and burst. Darkness swallowed the room. When she woke, she was lying on the basement floor. The door stood open. Beyond it was a corridor stretching endlessly, lined with countless doors, each whispering in a different voice. She stepped forward once, and the door behind her slammed shut. It didn't open again. Weeks later, the landlord listed the house for rent again. A new tenant came to visit. The rent was cheap, the neighborhood quiet. When she asked about the basement, the landlord smiled faintly. "Oh, it's locked," he said. "Just an old storage area. Best not to open the door down there."